It was a quiet afternoon in the suburban neighborhood where Sarah lived with her family. The sun cast soft shadows across perfectly manicured lawns, but behind the serene scene, tension often brewed. Her teenage daughter, Emma, had been acting cautiously lately, aware of the neighborhood's overzealous HOA and security patrols. That day, Emma returned from a late tutoring session, carrying a stack of books, unaware that HOA security was waiting near the entrance. "Excuse me, miss, can I see some ID?" one of the guards asked, blocking her path. Emma paused, puzzled. This wasn't the first time HOA security had been overbearing, but something in their tone suggested suspicion rather than courtesy. Across the street, neighbors peeked from their windows, curious about the confrontation. Sarah watched from the porch, heart racing, realizing that this could escalate quickly. But Emma, calm and composed, didn't panic. She knew how to handle authority, but not in the usual teenage way. What the guards didn't know was that Emma carried more than schoolbooks that day. She carried a secret that could completely change how they saw her. And in that silent suburban moment, the stage was set for a dramatic twist that would leave the entire neighborhood speechless. The HOA security officer stepped closer, blocking Emma's path, his expression stern. "Miss, we need to verify your identity. HOA rules are clear, you can't enter the property without clearance," he stated firmly. Emma looked him straight in the eye, calm but unwavering. "I understand," she replied, her voice steady. She reached into her backpack and pulled out an official-looking ID case. The officer frowned, suspicious, but took the ID. Emma handed it over with deliberate care, letting the weight of the moment sink in. Sarah's heart raced. Was this enough to defuse the situation, or was the confrontation about to spiral? The officer flipped open the ID and his eyes widened slightly, scanning the credentials inside. Emma remained calm, almost serene, letting the truth gradually register. Other security staff arrived, sensing tension in the air, curious about the unusual encounter. Meanwhile, neighbors began gathering on their lawns, murmuring among themselves. What would happen next? The truth inside that ID would shock everyone, but the reveal had to be precise. Emma had planned this carefully. And when she finally spoke, her words would leave the officers and her mother stunned. The lead officer cleared his throat, holding the ID carefully. "These credentials. Are you saying you're affiliated with the FBI?" His voice wavered slightly, a mix of disbelief and respect. Emma nodded, her expression calm but resolute. "Yes, sir. I'm here legally, and I follow all rules and regulations," she replied, her tone steady. Sarah gasped softly, a mix of awe and pride. The other security officers stepped back, exchanging puzzled glances. None had expected this level of authority from a teenager. Emma's calm professionalism transformed the entire dynamic instantly. What began as a routine HOA stop had become an extraordinary confrontation. Suddenly, the officer's previous stern demeanor shifted into cautious respect. Neighbors on their lawns whispered, some with disbelief, some with admiration. Emma explained briefly that she was on a specialized assignment nearby, always complying with legal protocols. Her clear, precise manner left no room for argument. The tension that had gripped the suburban street moments before began to dissolve. Karen, the most controlling HOA member, who had been watching from her window, blinked in surprise. She hadn't anticipated that authority would come from such an unexpected source. The neighborhood would remember this moment for years. The lead officer carefully returned the ID, his tone now respectful. "Thank you for clarifying, Mississippi. We won't bother you again." Emma nodded politely and adjusted her backpack. The other guards nodded subtly, some still stunned by the revelation. Sarah stepped onto the porch, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. Her daughter had handled the situation with composure that Sarah could only admire. Karen, the HOA board member, now stood frozen across the street, clutching her HOA manual, unsure how to regain control. It was clear her authority was irrelevant in the face of Emma's credentials and calm confidence. The neighborhood watched silently, the atmosphere shifting from tension to awe. Emma walked past, her posture confident, her head held high. Every step carried a subtle message: respect is earned, not assumed. The officers nodded politely again, letting her pass, and the encounter ended without confrontation. For the first time, the neighborhood saw the limits of HOA authority in a dramatic, unforgettable way. Sarah felt tears of pride rise. Emma had proven that intelligence, preparation, and poise could overcome intimidation in even the most unexpected moments. Once inside the house, Emma placed her backpack down and took a deep breath. "Mom, everything's fine," she said calmly, though Sarah could see the adrenaline still running through her daughter. Outside, the street buzzed with whispers. Some neighbors had already begun sharing the story, their surprise evident. Karen, still frozen across the road, could do nothing to reverse what had just happened. The quiet suburban street had never seen anything like this. What began as a minor confrontation escalated into a moment of unexpected revelation. Sarah realized that Emma's poise had changed more than the officer's perception, it had subtly shifted the neighborhood dynamic. Respect, authority, and calm intelligence had triumphed over fear, control, and arrogance. Emma's presence now carried weight, even a glance from her seemed to silence the previously overbearing HOA members. Sarah watched her daughter, quietly proud, realizing that this moment would be remembered by neighbors for years to come. The lesson was simple but powerful: courage and calm can overcome even the most surprising challenges. And the neighborhood would never underestimate Emma again. The days that followed were calm but filled with a quiet ripple of curiosity. Neighbors who had witnessed the event whispered about Emma's credentials, sharing admiration and intrigue. Karen, the HOA authority figure, avoided Sarah's family entirely, still unsure how to respond to what had transpired. Security guards now treated Emma with a mix of respect and caution, realizing that her presence alone demanded acknowledgement. Sarah noticed small gestures from neighbors, waves, polite smiles, nods of recognition. Emma walked confidently through the neighborhood, always polite, never boastful, aware of the power her calm intelligence had earned. It wasn't arrogance, it was earned respect. The subtle shift in perception was unmistakable. What had begun as a routine encounter with overbearing HOA rules had transformed into a story of unexpected authority, poise, and dignity. Sarah realized that sometimes, the quietest victories were the most powerful. And Emma had mastered one that no one would forget, a lesson in composure, preparation, and the quiet force of knowledge. Weeks later, life returned to the suburban rhythm, but the memory of that day lingered. HOA Karen no longer asserted her dominance, whispers of Emma's unexpected authority had traveled far and wide. Security patrols treated her with politeness, no longer assuming power over her. Sarah marveled at how calmly her daughter had transformed a tense confrontation into a moment of empowerment and respect. It wasn't fear or anger that had won the day, it was preparation, poise, and undeniable credibility. Emma had shown that confidence rooted in truth is far stronger than intimidation rooted in assumption. The neighborhood had learned an unforgettable lesson: respect cannot be forced, and authority doesn't always come from age or position. And that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you love the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.